I'm Michelle, and I'm a Suzuki piano teacher. I've been teaching piano for about 20 years, and right now I'm going to teach you how to play the left hand of a short story in Suzuki Book 2. So this is an accompaniment pattern that can be divided into 3 distinct sections. The first section is an Alberti pattern, the second section is scales, and the third kind of practice section is these chord jumps. So we have Alberti, scales, and chords. So let's start talking about the Alberti. The Alberti pattern should feel really familiar. This is something that you've done all through book 1 to so many different songs, and so we're just doing more of the same. The thing you want to focus on with the Alberti pattern is making your thumb nice and quiet. So the thumb is playing the notes that are not on the beat, and they should not be accented. And just due to the shape of the hand and the fact that the thumb joint is so much closer to the keys than the rest of the finger joints, the thumb has a tendency to whack the piano. So if you aren't listening for it, if you aren't careful, your Alberti pattern will probably end up sounding something like this. So you really have to pay attention to your thumb. Tell it to be quiet. Go like shh, 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 shh. Quiet thumb. And make sure you're listening to make it quieter than the rest of the notes, okay? So that's what you need to focus on for the Alberti pattern. Sometimes for me, it's easier to think of making the other notes louder rather than making the thumb quieter. So that might help. If you're having trouble making your thumb quiet, just think about making your other notes louder. And that might help to make the thumb less accented. So that's what you can work on with the Alberti pattern. There's also a return of the Alberti pattern here at measure 17, and I'll play that for you just so you know what all of the notes sound like. And then we have the chord section after that. So 17 through 21 is also the Alberti pattern, and again, you'll want to make sure that you have a nice quiet thumb. Shh, 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 and that's your focus for the Alberti pattern. Okay, that's the first section. The next section of the left hand that you'll need to work on and practice a lot is the scale section. So we have full octave runs. We're going up, starting on G, and then we're going up, starting on C, and then we're going up, starting on G, and then we're going up, starting on C. So it's kind of this alternating back and forth between a scale that starts on G and a scale that starts on C. The nice thing about all of these runs is that they're all on the white keys, so you don't have to worry about playing any black notes, and they all have that standard C major fingering. So that should hopefully not be too difficult, but it's possible that this is the first time you've ever played a scale, a full octave scale. So let me just explain how to do that. So you're going to start with your 5th finger and play all 5 of your fingers. From your thumb, you're going to keep your thumb where it is and move the rest of your hand over your thumb. So you kind of rotate your fingers over the top of your thumb until your 3rd finger is next to your thumb. So your 3rd finger is going to play the next note. Okay? So again, that scale fingering is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then cross the 3rd finger over. Okay? And then, as we've discussed before, we need to be sure and have practice pauses when you're learning this. So you'll do this full run and then stop for a second. Think about where you're going next. Aim that pinky for the C. The next scale you play is on the C. Now what's next? Have a little practice pause. The next one starts on G. Pause until you're ready, and then middle C. Now pause and a big, big jump all the way down. You're going to start down at the bottom again on this G. Practice pause. pause, wait till you're ready, and then start the C. Okay, so that's the whole scalar passage. I'll play it again from the beginning of measure 9, all the way through without any stopping, so you know what it sounds like when it's played fast. That's all of the scales. So you'll want to practice those scales. First, just focusing on getting the thumb crossing, that third finger over the thumb, and putting a nice pause in between each scale so that you have time to get to the starting note of it. Once you can do that, you can start to take out the little pauses and try and put those a little bit closer together. The trickiest part is going to be when you are all the way up here at the top of measure, very, very end of measure 12. You're here at the very, very top of this C scale, and then you have to jump an octave and a half, 2.5 octaves. So you're going to jump from here all the way down to here, and you don't have a rest or any time to do it. So this is something you'll have to practice, is this distance, measuring it out and going as quickly as you can, and just practice it until you can accurately jump between the C and the G. Once you can do that jump really quickly without missing, then you'll be able to play those scales subsequently. Like that. Okay, so that's something that will take time. That's not going to happen in one day. You practice the jump for many days and weeks, and then eventually you'll be able to play it all continuously. So the last little section of this scale passage is at the very, very end, measure 15, we have this little turn with a black note. So you start with the C major scale, and then you land with your third finger on D. From here, we're going to do a little turn. This is called a mordent. That's when you start on a pitch, you go below it, and then above it, and then back to it. So, and the fingering for that is 3, 4, 3, 2, and then you need to slip your thumb underneath on that last D. 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? So you'll need to spend some time practicing just that little mordent there. 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that little ditty at the very end of your scale passage will be a practice spot that you'll want to practice individually, and make sure that you get the fingering right and that thumb crossing. Okay. All right, so we did the Alberti pattern, we did the scale pattern. There's also one more scale at the very end of the song. And it's basically just a C major scale, but we do have a repeated C. We play this one with the pinky, and then we switch to the thumb. So you do play that C twice as you go down. So that's the very end of the song. All right, so we have our Alberti pattern, we have our scale patterns. Now, the last thing that you'll need to learn and practice are these chord jumps, and they start in measure 22. And it's just 2 measures, but it's something that you're going to need to practice as its own thing and make sure that you really focus on aiming and getting to the right place. So you're going to start here, C and E. The great thing is you've got rests. So you play this, and then you have time to lift, move over, find the next one, lift, move over just a teeny bit, and then reach for the big one, and then we end with the C and E. So those are the chords. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. That is a practice spot you're going to need to do every day for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even a month as you're learning this left hand. Okay? So you have to do it over and over again, repeat it until it just becomes really easy. So we're going to do this practice spot with practice pauses first. So play it, then pause. Wait until you're ready. Get to where you need to be. Play the next one. Wait until you're ready. Figure out where you're moving to. Just up one note with each of the fingers. And stop. Okay, what do we have to do from here? We're going to move the pinky up one note, but you have to reach your thumb 2 notes higher. And then reach for this D that you were just playing before with your thumb. You're going to play that with your second finger. So just kind of notice the transition, what fingers are moving where, and then lift, pause, wait until you're ready, and then set up this C and E third with your first and third fingers, okay? All right, so that is your chord section that you're gonna need to practice. Eventually, it will sound like this once you get your fingering set and you get all of your practice pauses eliminated. You still get to have rests. So thankfully, you do have plenty of time to move from one chord to the next, even in tempo. Okay, so that's the chord section that you need to practice. So that's a little breakdown of the left hand of a short story. You'll want to practice each of these sections kind of as their own little chunk and just focus on one of them per day. Or if you're going to do more than one, just like practice all the Alberti patterns 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times and then put it away. And then practice all of the scales 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times, maybe even 10 times in a row, okay? But you want to do each section as like a little focused practice. And then you want to do your chords 3 or 5 or 6 or 10 times, playing those chords and practicing the jumps and the movement and the fingering and the distance between the outer notes. So that is how you should practice your left hand of a short story. And I think that is all I wanted to teach you today. Yeah. This is one of my favorite songs. I really love A Short Story. It's so pretty. It's just a very pleasant song. So I hope you enjoy putting it together. And once you've learned your left hand all by itself, you've learned your right hand all by itself, and they're both solid and memorized, then I will teach you how to put your hands together. So really, really practice these individually. Get so completely just secure in each of these scale passages, in each of these jumps from the chords. It's really important that you don't have any hesitations or mistakes, that you use all the correct fingerings, that you've mastered all of the dynamic markings and all of the articulation markings, things like legato and staccato. All of those things need to be solid and secure and mastered in each hand individually for this song before you put hands together. When you put hands together, there's kind of a new challenge, because you've got things like, parallel sixth with an ascending scale and moving to a new place while you're playing parallel thirds. Things like that. It's a challenge in itself to put your hands together. So you really want to know what each of the parts are before you try assembling it. So I encourage you to spend at least 3 or 4 weeks just hands separately, really studying and memorizing and perfecting each of the parts to this song. And then I'll teach you how to put them together after you've mastered that. All right, I'll see you next time.